Welcome to the ChartFactor Studio Adding Calculations class. In this class, you will learn how to add derived metrics, custom labels, and additional configurations using ChartFactor Studio Community Edition. Let's go to chartfactor.com. Scroll down and click on the ChartFactor Studio button. You are now on the ChartFactor Studio homepage. Click on the London Fire Brigade dashboard that we created on our previous class. As you may recall, you can interact with any chart. For example, you can click on the trend chart to filter by a specific day. You can select a slicer to analyze a specific property category. And you can play the data through time. Now, let's say that you want to analyze the distribution of arrival times. We can start by duplicating one of our charts. For example, number of calls by borough, by clicking on its duplicate icon. Once duplicated, go to the newly created widget and open its code editor. For the metric, let's choose first pump arriving attendance time to visualize the time it takes for the first pump to arrive. However, we don't want to see the sum of the arrival time or its average. We want to see its distribution, so let's select a box plot instead. It automatically uses percentiles as the metric operation. You can hover over the first borough, for example, and see the minimum, the first quartile, the median, the third quartile, and the maximum arriving attendance time, which in this case is 1,166. You can also sort the boroughs by the median arrival time by simply passing the metric on the sort function. Let's leave descending as the sort direction. Now let's press play. Better. However, only a few borough names are visible on the x-axis. Let's rotate the chart horizontally by uncommenting the horizontal orientation setting. Let's press play again. The chart looks good now. You can save it and title it First Arrival Time Distribution in Seconds. Let's move and resize the widget to place it where we need it. Let's also move the other widgets around so everything fits nicely. Now, the first arrival time field is providing its values in seconds. We are going to create a derived metric to show these values in minutes instead. Let's open the metadata information window for the source we are using in the box plot and leave it open for now. You can close the editor. Now, let's open the custom metadata window located on the top right area of the dashboard by clicking on its metadata icon. You can see generated field labels and types that are initially commented out. Let's uncomment them. Next, place your cursor above the metadata declaration because we are going to place our derived metric here. Open the documentation by clicking on the help icon and search for derived metric information. You can find all about derived metrics here. For now, let's just copy the sample code and paste it into your custom metadata window. The sample code declares a derived metric with two metric dependencies. Let's remove the second one since we are just going to need one. Let's also remove it from the dependency array. Instead of total visits, let's use first pump arriving attendance time. We can copy its field name using the information window and paste it as the name of the dependent metric. Change the metric operation from sum to percentiles. Let's also change the variable name from bounce rate to first arrival minutes. We can name the variable any name we want. However, descriptive names are always helpful. Now, let's complete the information that ChartFactor will receive for our derived metric. For field name, let's use first arrival minutes. For field label, let's say first arrival minutes. For type, let's leave number, since that is the correct type of our metric. For dependencies, we need the first pump arriving time percentiles, which we already declared. For function, the objective is to divide the dependency by 60 to convert it to minutes. Since we declared one dependency, we will receive the dependency as a parameter. We can name it seconds and just divide it by 60. The definition of our custom metric is ready. Now, add it as a field to the London Fire Brigade call source. It is important that the field name we add to the source matches the field name we used in our derived metric declaration. In this case, first arrival minutes. Next, assign to the field name the derived metric variable we declared previously. In this case, first arrival minutes. And the definition of our derived metric is now complete. Click on the Save button and close the custom metadata window. Your derived metric is now ready to use. Click on the Edit icon of the box plot to open its code editor. Open the Metadata Information window and scroll to the bottom. You can now see a field named First Arrival Minutes and type CFT derived, which means ChartFactor Toolkit derived. Now click on its name to copy it to the clipboard. Then, just paste it in the code as the metric name. Click on the play button and hover over the box plot chart to verify that the metric values are now in minutes instead of seconds. For example, the borough Hillingdon has a median arrival time of 5.91 minutes. Let's save it, and our box plot showing the first arrival time distribution is now ready. Let's update its title so it says minutes instead of seconds. Next, let's update some field labels. Open the metadata window again by clicking on the metadata icon. Let's change the timestamp field to date of call and set its label to date of call. We don't need to override its type since it is already time, so we can remove this line. For the borough code field, let's change its label to borough code. There is no need to override its type, so let's remove that line as well. For the borough name field, let's change its label to borough. Similar to the previous fields, no need to override its type, so we're just going to remove the line. Let's also define a label for property category. Use the information window to find its field name. Type category on its filter box and copy it to the clipboard by clicking on its name. Then, paste it on the custom metadata window and let's use property category for its label. Let's do the same for the hour of call field. Use the information window to find its field name. Type hour on its filter box and copy it to the clipboard by clicking on its name. Then, paste it on the custom metadata window and let's use hour of call for its label. There is one more label we would like to update. The default label for the count metric is transactions. However, we would like to change it so it says calls instead. Add a line below the source name and type count. Then, open and close curly brackets and add a comma at the end. Then, type label and then type calls for the value of the label property. Let's save these changes, close the metadata window, and now we have the right field labels applied to our visualizations. You can now see calls instead of transactions in your charts, as well as other labels instead of field names. Next, let's make our bars easier to read by printing their metric values inside them. Edit the bar chart titled Calls by Hour of the Day. Then, switch to Code Editor by clicking on the Code Editor icon. Type .set Siri label comma. Then, open curly brackets and type show colon true comma. Position inside bottom. There are additional Siri label options you can explore by going to the documentation and typing bars or Siri label. Click on the play button to see how it looks, and now let's save it. Let's do the same for the bar chart titled Number of Calls by Borough. Edit the chart, then switch to Code Editor by clicking on the Code Editor icon. Type .set Siri label comma. Open curly braces and type show colon true comma. Position inside left. Click on the play button to see how it looks, and now let's save it. Let's also show values for the calls, source, and type heat map. Edit the chart. Type .set show values true. Click on the play button to see how it looks, and now let's save it. As usual, you can search for heat map in the documentation configuration options and examples. This is much better. You can select an hour of the day to filter your dashboard, and you can see the metric values at all times. The same for the other bar chart and heat map. Our dashboard is now complete. In this class, we visualized the distribution of the first arrival time initially in seconds. We then added a derived metric to present the distribution values in minutes. We also replaced field names with our own custom labels. And we rendered metric values inside our bar charts and heat map. In our next class, we will build a custom web application with embedded visualizations. See you next class.